Get started. Hello, everybody, America. Those of you gathered here in Accounting 110 at Western Kentucky University. Welcome welcome all. Welcome back to some of you. We miss some of you. Some of you are not here today, and so we miss you. So let me close the door. Today we're going to continue our discussion about learning. Oh man, come on in, man. Come on in. So today we're going to continue our discussion about learning. And remind me your name, sir, that you just wandered in. Remind me of your name.
Hayden.
Okay. So, you might remember, no, that's not going to work, that. How do you know if you've learned something? August. If you have learned it, you can teach it. What would you say to that? Is Jared here? I've got to be almost got to have this on me because there's so many people gone. Jared is not here. Veronica, how would you answer that question? How do you know if you've learned something?
If you've learned it, you can teach it.
If you have learned it, you can teach it. Let me do one more. Baxton, how would you answer this question? If you have learned it, you can teach it. So you've actually learned something this semester. At least that, right? At least that. So that is pretty awesome. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that sort of thing today. So if you've learned it, you can teach it. I'm not sure how much of this I can claim credit to. I do see that people attributed that to me when they took the quizzes. And I would say this is probably going to be the quiz next class period, I would say. This is probably the easiest thing for me to quiz you on next class period. And so, but really, where the same comes, certainly where that principle comes from, is from this book. And so, all my presentations on this topic are really just from chapters in that book. Okay? It is funny, have you noticed, I've been trying to pick, if you've looked at my YouTube channel, I'm trying to pick the more dramatic photos, because if you upload a video to YouTube, it'll choose 3 images from the video as suggestions for what the title image might be, and so it keeps capturing kind of some big ones, you know, and so I'm now making just big gestures, wondering if one of these will be chosen by YouTube as one of the recommendations for what goes on YouTube. But here we go. Here are some actual comments from students after the exam. I studied, but I blanked out during the exam. I thought I knew it, but I didn't. It made perfect sense on the board during class or during the lecture, but not when I did it on the exam. I couldn't figure out why I didn't know it. Student number 2. There were not examples of problems like the ones on the test. I've never seen those problems before. There were a few problems that we just never introduced in class. And 3, you, me, the instructor, you suck. You went through the material so fast in lecture and people answered questions so quickly that I just didn't follow. And so let's answer that question. Let's spend just a few minutes answering that question down at the bottom. To what or whom are these students attributing their test result? Yeah, so who's to blame? Huh? You think they're blaming themselves? Me? Who else they blame? Classmates? Who else they blame?
Keep writing on stuff on the board too fast.
So, professor? Professor? What were you saying? Who are they blaming here?
It looks like on the those two students, they're blaming themselves. Well, the first student's blaming himself.
Actually, do you think, I don't think they're blaming themselves, actually.
You don't think student one's blaming himself?
You're right. But I couldn't figure out why I didn't know it. Maybe, to some extent, maybe. But they might be just saying, you know, you didn't teach me. Ben, what do you think? Actually, this is interesting. What do you think? Do you think they're, student number one's blaming themselves?
Yeah, I guess.
Do you say so? How about you? Did you say that student number one's blaming themselves?
I feel like they're blaming themselves, but like slightly blaming me.
They're blaming themselves a little bit, but slightly blaming me. Because it made sense when it was on the board, but then when they saw it on the exam, it didn't. Yes, sir.
I think they don't want to admit what the problem was, and they're going, I don't know what. I don't think they're really blaming you. I don't really think they're blaming themselves. I think they're just.
You know, they just don't know what the problem is at all.
Yeah, I don't think they want to admit it.
They don't want to admit to themselves what the problem is. I appreciate that. That's astute. That's actually something we're going to be talking about a little bit later, is just this notion of self-awareness. You actually know when you know, or understand. Do you know when you know? Do you not know when you know? Okay. But still, the mood of these is a bit negative, isn't it? But then here we've got a couple more students. I've taken a new approach to studying by using some of your suggestions, and it does seem to be helping. By previewing the chapter before lecture and studying the notes online, I better understand the material as you go over it. Thank you for setting aside in our class time for this, because I feel that it was really informative and helpful. I identified a few problems with my own study methods and have since made changes as you suggested. To what or whom are these students attributing their performance? What do you think?
What you talked about, like, study.
Interesting. How about you? Do you agree with that? I actually don't agree with that necessarily. But yeah, kind of. They're giving the instructor some credit for teaching them how to do something different. But who performed better? They did. Right. What did I teach them? Did I teach them material better? Right. And this really wasn't me, actually. This is the author of the textbook. Let's not pretend that this is me. This is the author of the textbook. What do you think? How so? They're the ones previewing for chapters. So what are they doing different? They're studying different. They're studying different. Studying different. What do you think? What do you get from these slides? You got a better way of studying. I'd say the same thing you just said here. They're studying different. What do you know what they're doing? What are they doing different?
They're previewing the chapter.
Do you ever do? Does anyone? I mean, you don't have to raise your hands, but just think to yourself, do you ever do that? Actually, kind of do something before class to get ready for class. It is something you can do. You know, for my class, it's a little harder. Next semester, students can watch the videos before class, actually, as a prep tool to get ready for class. For you all, unfortunately, because I'm recording in this semester, that's not quite so. So the first group blames mostly the instructor, right? The exam, you know, I knew it, but the exam was a little iffy. Maybe the class structure, but the second group credits. I mean, they give credit to the instructor for helping them improve their study skills, but it was their improved study skills, their ability to study better, that was really the reason for their improved performance. And so we're going to talk just a bit about metacognition, which is thinking about your own thinking. Thinking about your own thinking. You know, so metacognition is the ability to think about your own thinking, to be aware of yourself as a problem solver, to monitor, plan, and control your mental processing. And really, this is a different color for a reason. Accurately judge your level of learning, right? As you're studying, how well do you understand yourself? And how well do you understand really how much you know and what you don't know and what you might need to do to kind of bridge that gap, right? What you need to, and I think that second group of students, this is what they were doing, right? They were realizing that there was a shortfall and they needed to do something different, and they figured a little bit of that out. Why metacognition? Am I understanding this material or just memorizing it? We've already talked that a lot of you memorized your way through high school. And students above you in college, right? Sophomores, juniors, and seniors are still trying to memorize their way through classes when they should be learning. When you become metacognition, you become tremendously empowered as a learner because you begin to be able to teach yourself. You learn how to learn. You learn how to put knowledge into your head so that it can stay there. So it's more than just working harder, because working harder might just mean working harder to memorize stuff, right? And so this isn't just about I'm gonna memorize better. This is more about studying better so that you can learn how to teach somebody else this stuff. So you learn it so good that you can in fact teach someone else how to do this. Okay. So now quiz number 1. We're gonna do 2 half quizzes. Okay. And let me get my watch up. The dicey thing, the goofy thing about this is usually I would use my phone as a timer, but my phone is busy videotaping. So I did figure out I have an app that I can use to time. So what's going to happen is I'm going to show you a list of, I think it's 12 words. Okay? So imagine what's going to be coming onto the screen is 2 columns of 6 words, or 6 sets of words and short phrases. And your job is, and I'm going to time it very precisely. I'm going to pop it on, and then I'm going to keep track. You're going to have 45 seconds, and you want to count all the vowels in the text on this next page until time runs out. And as soon as time runs out, I'll flip it off. Okay, so but I am going to keep I've got an atomic clock app here on my watch, so it'll be a very precise 45 seconds. So take a swig of water, everybody, whatever you need to do to kind of calm your nerves and get ready. And then, actually, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, go. Oh, I lied. 15 words. There's 15 words. And that's time. Time is up now. Here's the quiz. Take a moment, close your eyes, and write down all of the words and phrases you just saw on your sheet of paper.
First sheet of paper?
This sheet of paper. Can't say sheet, it's called a same sheet. Right, I don't. Sure. Yes, I know.
Didn't get much. I wasn't paying attention anymore.
I'm missing somebody from over here, I think, a couple, somebody. Say, phone already, man. Huh? Words. So I lied. I am sorry. I should have said 3 columns of 5. Okay. So now what we're going to do. What was sneaky about that? There was a little bit sneaky of me, wasn't it? What was sneaky about that?
So you told us to
Count vowels. And then what did I really ask you?
What would be better?
What are the words? There's a little bit of a misalignment there, right?
Yeah.
Little. I'm gonna say now. So now what I want you to do, I'm gonna show you the entire list of words again for 15 seconds. And now you know it is a list of words. I've gotta bring my app back up again. I don't know why I just want to stay up. And now you're gonna see the list of words. And there is a pattern. Okay? There's a pattern to words. And so what you want to be doing is trying to figure out what is the pattern in order. Okay? What's the pattern?
Is this the second quiz?
Not yet. This is helping you do better on the second quiz. Okay? Thank you for asking. This is not the second quiz. This is helping you do better on the second quiz. And so I'm going to give you 15 seconds. I wish this would just stay up. Stay up here, buddy. Okay, stay up there, buddy. And so we're going to give you 15 seconds. What is the pattern? You think you got it? Did you figure out a pattern? Sir?
The pattern that goes from 1 to 15.
The pattern is what goes from 1 to 15. Now, quiz part 2. Quiz part 2. You're gonna have the same 45 seconds. And now you know what you're trying to do. You're trying to memorize every
And so actually, so you shouldn't be writing it down now, right? You have 45 seconds. What I want you to do is to memorize. And then I'll turn it off, and then you'll write it down, okay? So please don't cheat. There's no reason to cheat. Because at this point, at this point, I'll tell you, I'm just gonna grade if you've got your name on a piece of paper. The point is, you're all gonna do much, much better. So the point is, we're gonna please spend 45 seconds just memorizing. And then when I flash it stop, then you start writing, okay? Please do it. Please do it that way. Go. Now write down as many words as you can. Well, I appreciate how effortful you clearly were at this, particularly that second time. And what changed? The most important thing that changed was you studied the right thing, right? The most important thing was you studied the right thing. And then more importantly, I mean, it was kind of a memorization task, wasn't it? And so, you know, and as much as I've talked about how, you know, memorizing is not good, it was a bit of a memorization task, but what made memorizing easier?
No, when it goes into.
Knowing the pattern, knowing that there was a rationale, a reason, a rhyme, some pattern of things that was going on. And so what really improved your performance was not only studying the right stuff, but seeking this pattern, seeking almost this causality, rather than just raw memorizing, right? Because I could have given it to you without pointing out that there was a pattern, and then you would kind of do raw memorizing, but you wouldn't do as good that way either. So what I did was I really provided two different learning environments. And like I said, I'm going to grade your name on a piece of paper. I'm not going to grade your performance for these. But I did that to kind of help you take it seriously, right? To kind of feel like there's some skin in the game. That like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And help you feel. The nice thing about this exercise is you really feel, you experience what it is like to study better. Right? You feel what it's like to study better, to study more appropriately, to study for the right task, and just to study better. So why did you do so much better? And you all did worlds better. Did anybody get all 15 right the second time, you think? Several, 2, 3, 4 of you think they got all 15 right? Most of you got at least 5 to 10 of them right. I think all of you got at least 5 to 10 of them right. 1, you were aware of your goal, and 2, we had a very good system for learning the information. And that's what you want to create for yourself in all your classes, not just mine, right? This is, hopefully this benefits you not just in my class, but in all of your classes for the rest of your academic career, including the other classes you're taking this semester. That's really the purpose of this. Because odds are most of you haven't been taught to about this sort of stuff. Has anybody heard this sort of stuff before? I have. That's a great question. Has anybody kind of a little bit, maybe?
I'm gonna argue that it's common sense.
Maybe, but common sense is not so common.
Yeah, you're right.
Common sense is not so common. It is kind of common sense, but this person was working on a PhD before she figured this out, or master's degree at least. And so and certainly there's nothing in most high school educations to the high school education that most of you got doesn't prepare you for this, really, right? Memorize a bit, so you memorize enough so you can do good on a standardized test, and then we love you. And we actually don't care if you learn or not, just as long as you perform good on this test. And unfortunately, we are incentivizing that. Right? There are reasons why teachers teach that way, legitimate reasons. It's just not in your best interest as a student, as a person who should be trying to learn. Okay. This is, the question I think, and I'm going to go around and ask everybody this. What did you take away from this exercise today? I mean, we're going to count, let's just focus on one of these for now. What lessons did you take away from today's exercise? So,
Easier when you study the right thing.
sorry?
It's easier when you study the right thing.
It's easier when you study the right thing. And you can say anything you want, you can kind of repeat. There's probably not too many original thoughts here, but what I want you to have your thought. What lesson did you take away from this exercise today?
I would say that you have to create your own method or system of studying for studying.
You have to create your own system of study with your own method for studying. I think that's super valid.
This could be one.
Yeah, this could be one of them. I'll tell you, that just reminds me of college, right? That I figured out, and it's still super, super true. Like maybe this surprises you, but I am a bit antsy, like personally, right? I'm a bit antsy. And so I study better if I'm burning off energy almost at the same time. And I don't know how many of you, anybody know what a hacky sack is? Yeah, I used to well, I remember studying for my law exams, and where I had to memorize pages and pages of stuff. And I would literally have a sheet of paper up on a desk, and I'd be hacky-sacking for hours, just memorizing stuff. And so that was something that apparently was very helpful for me to kind of, I could burn off a little energy and keep myself relatively calm, but at the same time, I kept pounding this information into my brain cells. And that's not something that's gonna work for everybody. That might have the exact opposite effect, but for me, I found that helpful. So all of us, you know, the same thing's not gonna work exactly for everybody. Tell me one lesson that you took away from this exercise.
Helps with my memorization skills.
What helps?
The pattern that I saw.
Knowing the pattern made it easier to memorize.
There's no one way of studying. Like there's multiple ways to study for each person.
There is multiple ways of studying for each person. Are there bad ways of studying?
I mean, it could.
To some extent, there are bad ways, I think. You know, you want to be looking for kind of causes, for reasons, for underlying patterns. You want to look deeper rather than just purely memorizing. So I think it would be bad. It would have been bad studying round 2 just to try and punch all those words into your head without considering the pattern. I would say that would be bad studying in this specific example. So I do think there's bad studying, but there's lots of ways to study well. What do you think? What one lesson did you take away from knowledge exercise?
But I probably spent too much time studying wrong stuff.
And you probably spend too much time studying the wrong stuff. And that's awesome to kind of, well, at least to recognize that. And then it gives you the opportunity to think about, so what's the right stuff for you to study?
If I associate what I'm studying with something that I'll remember, it helps me remember.
It does, it can, and lots of people use different tricks for that. You know, lots of people use different tricks for that. One thing we learned.
To study the right thing, and,
To study the right thing,
like she said, having a way to memorize it.
a way to memorize it, or to learn it, if it's not just memorization. But, like, not everything, there is some memorization in here, right, but there's also some understanding things that you gotta do.
I say try and know your goal from the start.
Try to know your goal from the start, right? Very good. Make sure you're studying the right things. Is that easy to do? Sometimes, hopefully. But it's a good thing to think about. Like, am I studying right?
It's easier to learn if you have a good idea of what's coming before.
Yeah, it's easier to learn if you have a good idea of what's coming, because it was a little deceptive at the beginning.
It's like easier to remember it, to comprehend it.
Easier to remember it if you comprehend it.
Yeah, it's so much easier it was to remember it when I was looking at that.
It's how much easier it was when you understood the pattern.
Glancing at the material per second, going back to it.
Seeing it more than once was helpful. Also very true, right? Seeing things more than once, very helpful. I think I told you I rewrote every page of notes I ever took in college. Because I saw everything I ever wrote in college twice. And I found it super helpful.
Doing a little more work outside the classroom, so reviewing notes for a class.
Is something you could do. Okay, but which I think you learn not from this exercise as much as maybe from the presentation in general. But I'll take it. Yes, sir.
Kind of just like knowing how to study and what works for you.
Knowing how to study and what works for you is important. Is that actually wasn't a complete sentence.
Alright, isn't
It is important. That's what this is kind of a phrase. Yes, sir.
Just studying, pre-notes in class, and just keep reviewing until you know it.
Study notes in class and keep reviewing.
Just knowing what to study.
Knowing what to study is important.
Associating certain words, certain, like, patterns.
Learning to
Word
associate, yeah.
association.
Make some links, right? Make some links somewhere, somehow. Make some links.
Understanding the pattern.
Understand the patterns.
I want to say probably taking less time memorizing stuff and actually taking the time to learn it so that you can just understand it if you forget. If that makes sense.
You spend a little bit less time memorizing just to memorize it.
If you're trying to learn one thing, you could end up learning others. Like we were originally supposed to just look at the dots, we ended up learning the words.
Yeah.
Just knowing what to write.
Knowing the right way to study is important. Is important.
It's helpful to look at something first without trying to memorize it and then going back and memorizing it.
Like taking the time to try and find some kind of a reason or a pattern.
Just thought that it was like easier to remember stuff that you do like a pattern.
When you have a pattern to follow, much easier to memorize, wasn't it? Once I gave you that. Even easier than if I just given you 45 seconds to memorize the word. And so, that's really it for today. I just wanted you to feel how important it is to study right. How important that is, how that might change your outcomes. Right? I want you all to do as good in my class as possible. So maybe you spend a little bit of time thinking about how you might study for the next test better or differently. And but more importantly, this isn't. I mean, one, I do hope you do that, just as good as possible in my class, but I do also hope that you do just as good as possible in all of your classes. And so these are concepts that I hope you can successfully take and apply in all of your classes. So, hey, thank you all very much for how hard you worked at this.